Hi guys, I'm James McIntosh and today we have a very special episode as today I'm joined alongside the Vanarama National League CEO, Mark Ives. Mark, thanks for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And I was just saying before we even got into it, we've had my polls explode from people wanting to ask you questions. I've had class discussions about it, so it's a really cool episode. And we're going to be talking about the Free Up, Free Down new campaign. But Mark, for the fans who don't know you, can you just give us a bit of a rundown of who you are and what you do in football?
Of course I can. And first of all, James, thank you for what you're doing, and thanks for the opportunity to be part of it. So, as you said, I'm CEO of the National League. Have been with the National League since January 21. Prior to that, I was at the Football Association for just under 20 years. I was head of judicial services for the last 13 of those, which looked after the judicial process, discipline process from the very top of the game, right the way down to the very grassroots of the game. Prior to that, I was a CEO at Hertfordshire FA. Prior to that, I was in the army. Forget that. I had a great 12 years in the army, but that's my career. And to top it all, I'm also a referee and have been refereeing now for 40 years.
Oh, wow. So you just mentioned there, you've clearly had a very wide experience of working in both league and non-league football then. I'm guessing from your job at the FA, could you always see the Jekyll and Hyde between non-league quality and EFL quality?
To be fair, no. When you're in the bubble of the FA and doing the role that you're doing, you're focused on your role. Okay, so I could definitely see the difference between the processes at grassroots level at step 5 and below, and those above at step 4 and above through the system. And I think it's probably only proper that I outline right at the outset that we've got no axe with the EFL. All right, our relationship with the EFL is really good. We just have a professional difference of opinion on this particular issue, and actually not the issues as such, but the timing on when it will come in. So from an EFL point of view, I've got a huge amount of respect for what they do and how they work. We've got a great working relationship, as we do with the Premier League.
Well, Mark, let's further dive into this decision that they may not like. So since becoming the CEO of the National League, you have confirmed plans that you do want to have 3 teams go up to League 2 and 3 teams down from League 2. Can you just talk us through this decision?
Sure. Let's look at the history. So way back, the promotion into the EFL was by a vote. Didn't even have any automatic promotion. They then got into one promotion, and then in 2003 secured 2 up from the Football Conference, National League now, into the EFL. That's over 20 years ago, and the game has changed. But what we have to look at is, what is the promotion and relegation above the National League, and is there parity? So if you look at the promotion from the National League into the EFL is 2 places, 1 automatic and 1 through our playoff scheme. And from League 2 into League 1, they have 4 promotion places. And then above that, 3 right the way up into the Premier League. So our position is, that's not fair. We have a very good pyramid of football within this country that is the envy of the world over. Nowhere else in the world do I know where you can go from the very base of their football right the way up to the top on sporting merit. So we should be proud of what we have. And the block in this is when we get to the National League into the EFL, where there is only 2. Now, we couldn't have an argument if it was 2 up, 2 down, right the way through the rest of the system, but it's not. So it means that our clubs are being treated less favourably than clubs above us, and that's not right.
Yeah, I do 100% agree with you on that one. I've always thought that with National League, it just seems a weird little structure how they've only ever been given two teams. Or as you say, they even started off with just having one team getting voted through. Can't even believe that was the case. It does not seem fair at all. So that begs my next question. How long has this idea now been in the works for?
Oh, I'll come to that in a sec in terms of the discussion has been ongoing for quite a few years. All right. But actually, I think it's only right that the position way back might have been appropriate when you look at the structures and everything else of the football conference clubs way back. But the game at this level and the conference in particular has grown and grown and grown. And they've proved themselves to be on a par and suitable to have that promotion. And we'll talk a little bit later, I'm sure, about the quality of the clubs that are leaving the National League and how they succeed in going up. But the discussion itself has been ongoing for a great number of years. And before I joined the league, in all honesty, and I've been part of a very good conversations with the senior executive at the EFL over the last few years. Myself and our chairman, Jack Pearce, have been having a number of conversations with the EFL, quality conversations, ones that in principle the EFL will support. And the issue is the timing and when it can come into play, and that has caused us difficulty. And if you like, I can go into why we believe there's now a delay, if that helps your listeners.
Yeah, I would like you to go into that because I'm pretty sure it could be to do with the independent regulator.
It's absolutely to do with the independent regulator as a tool. However, it's that the EFL have publicly said that they can't do anything until the wider football issues have been dealt with, which is the reference to the negotiations between the EFL and the Premier League over their financial arrangements, the financial flow of monies from the Premier League through the EFL. I have no view on that. That's a matter for the Premier League and the EFL. But what they are saying, and they are linking this 3-Up campaign to those discussions when they're not interdependent. They've got nothing to do with it. And what will actually happen is that, or likely to happen, is that the discussion will go to the regulator who considers financial sustainability and everything else and quite possibly trigger what they call in the bill the backstop, where it will be put in the hands of the regulator to resolve. Now, regulator's not even formed yet. It's not even in law fully. It's having a debate through the parliamentary houses. We know it'll come in, all right? So it's coming, but by the time that comes in and the regulator is set up and their structures there and they've debated and had conversations around this and they've activated the backstop and they've made the decision through the backstop, that is likely to be 3, maybe 4 years. And then they'll discuss the issue of 3-Up. That's going to be 4 or 5 years. And that's simply not right when they're completely interdependent of each other. They're not related, okay? And when you consider that the issue of 3-Up has got nothing to do with the regulator, because the regulator has made it clear football matters, this is a football matter, is outside the scope of the regulator. So to link it to something that's in the gift of the regulator, when the subject we're talking about is outside of the regulator, we just think they should get on and deal with it now and put football first. And that's what we're trying to get them to do.
So do you feel like there could be a way where the National League could just work directly with the EFL rather than even getting the regulator involved?
Well, again, let's be clear. The regulator won't get involved with the 3-Up campaign. They can't. It will be outside of their powers. They don't want it to. We don't want them to deal with football matters, to be fair. I think we're all in agreement with that. football should deal with those football matters themselves. So it's not a regulator thing to get involved with. And yes, we're talking directly with the EFL, and the aim of this campaign is to get them to put it on the annual general meeting of the EFL in June of this year, to get their clubs to vote on what appears to be the right thing to do in the vast majority of people who are joining social media and everything else, is to support the 3-up. Nobody can give us a reason as to why it's not right. So therefore, we would like them to take it to the AGM in June, so that we know at the end of 25-26 season, we have secured the 3-up position.
Yeah, definitely, because we'll look at that side about EFL clubs voting for it a bit later on. But I want to return back to the National League teams. As far as what I saw, all 72 teams voted in favour of this decision. Just shows the wide support from this range of football.
Well, it's important because while some people might say, well, why are the step 2, why are the 48 clubs at step 2 interested in it, is that they've all got aspirations, as does the rest of the pyramid. So we've got support from the Isthmian League, Southern League and Northern Premier League as well below us at step 3 and 4, because they all of their clubs, their communities have aspirations to go up. And what they don't want to have is a blockage in the system. So at some stage, the step 3 clubs will want to be step 2 clubs, step 2 will want to be step 1, and step 1 will want to go up into the EFL, and they want a fair chance to achieve that aim, so that they can achieve it on sporting merit in the same way as the other clubs above them.
Well, I'm sure you would have spoke to many National League CEOs over the course of the last year. What have they all made of this decision?
This is the number one priority for the competition. So at our extraordinary general meeting, which we have every year, the clubs were asked to support us taking the campaign route because of the delay in introducing this. So all 72 clubs, without any exception whatsoever, are totally in support of what we're doing. And if you link the 72 clubs, look at the communities that they touch. Look at the impact that will have on those communities and what is simply the right thing to do for football.
Do you think this campaign will create a lot more of those stories where teams can thrive through the leagues rather than just going up one league, being stuck a few leagues, and then being stuck in that league for a few years?
I think it's essential that we remove any off-field challenges, and that clubs can achieve that aim purely on their sporting merit. The hard work that's put in by the managers, the players, the rest of the teams within and staff within the clubs, to help them achieve what they do on the field of play. So will it improve what is already a world-class pyramid? Yes, it'll just make it a little bit better, but it will create a massive opportunity for those clubs. Now, if I tell you that since the introduction of 2-up in 2003, we've had 40 clubs, different clubs go up into the EFL. 32 of them are still in the EFL. So it just goes to show the quality of the teams that are leaving the National League, who have got themselves sorted both on and off the field of play, so that when they go up on the field, they can perform well in the steps that they go up. In that time, no team in the National League has been promoted and then immediately relegated again.
Well, exactly that. And it's a very important point that I really want to brush on with that point. So you just mentioned there, a lot of the teams that have gone up, they're staying League Two, or a lot of them even charge into League One. We've seen famous examples, one being Luton, more recently Stockport, Wrexham, etc. I could go on with the list. By having 3 up rather than 2, Do you think that could reduce the readiness of the league above when, at the moment, the two teams that do go up, they're always ready for the next league above?
So history will tell you that our clubs are ready when they go up. One of the challenges that, and it's a really, really good question, but the ethos of our competition is to make our competition as close to the EFL as we can. And this goes down the pyramid as well. So every team that makes a step up, there is as little change to them as there possibly can be. All right. There's always going to be some change, but there's as little change as there can be. So the performance on and off for our clubs that are going up, history will speak for itself. The facts will speak for themselves. The fact that we'll give a third team the opportunity is just going to mean that there's going to be another club who is going up on the same criteria as the teams who are above them and will be able to hold their own when they go up as well. So you look at the history, think about when the regulator came in and the financial sustainability, which we support, by the way, ensuring financial sustainability of clubs. Look at the history of the National League as far as that's concerned. When the fan-led review was first launched a few years ago, people were talking about quality of clubs in the National League and clubs going to the wall and going into liquidation. Well, let's not let that hype get in the way of what the facts show. The National League has not had a club go into liquidation since 2013. That is at the same time as to when the National League changed their own financial regulations internally, their own rules and regulations that the clubs have to adhere to. So we've had no club go into liquidation during that time. You look at the clubs that have come down, some, not all, some have come in a really difficult position. If you look at the clubs that unfortunately haven't survived, they have not come from the National League. All right. So the facts are, from a financial point of view, our clubs are okay. However, there is a debate, or there has been discussion around the regulations that are applied at the EFL are not the same as the regulations that are applied at the National League. All right. So this is a salary control management protocol, SCMP. All right. The National League are bringing that in this season. All right. So from next season, even the financial criteria, and we're adding that to our existing criteria, will be on a par with the EFL. So there is no argument. From a financial point of view, there'll be the same controls, plus more, actually. And the issue and the concern that is born over way back from a National League perspective, pre-2013, those problems have gone.
Well, you just mentioned there very heavily about the finance side of the parts you will be changing on from next season. Obviously, if this campaign was to go through 3 down, 3 up, surely things like FFP would have to change in the National League just to ensure teams that do come down can't buy their way through promotion.
That's what the SCMP will do. So as I say, we're bringing that on par before we even have the vote and the discussion on it. So that argument goes out the window. But if we talk about those clubs that you might say, people might argue have bought their way into through the system, the clubs that have gone up continue to go up. So actually, what I would say, if you look at the businesses, generally speaking, you can always point to the odd exception. Generally speaking, if you look at the business models of those clubs, they are very, very sound businesses and can hold their own.
Definitely. And I think we've seen it a few cases, as I just alluded to there. But another point I do heavily want to brush on is you can see the wide appeal from non-league teams. The only teams I can't really see too much appeal for is the teams stuck in the EFL at the moment. So the teams towards the bottom of the league, they have to vote in favour of this in order for it to go through, or the EFL teams. Why would they vote for this appeal when it increases their jeopardy of going down and perhaps keep going down through the leagues?
Well, it's a natural thing that people will ask. So what we have, anybody who's running a football club tends to look at the wider issues. Yes, they tend to look at their own club's issues, but they look at the wider issues. If you are one of those that are languishing down at the bottom of League Two and potentially going to slip through that very narrow trapdoor of two clubs and end up in the National League, you've got to remember that narrow door is the same door you're going to have to go through to go back up. So you're actually limiting your opportunity to progress if and when you go down. All right. And why we say put football first is allow football to make the decision insofar on sporting merit and treat the clubs in the same way down as you do up. All right. So the chairman of the EFL has said often that the role of the EFL in sustaining a fluid pyramid, they have to look down as well as up. Then what we're saying is look down now and make that decision so that those clubs that are being promoted from the National League into EFL have a fair competition, the same as those teams that are in the EFL now. So if I was an owner of a League Two club who's languishing that way, I would want to think long term, what's my chances to getting back out if I do slip? And we've got 15 ex-EFL teams in our ranks. Over the last 10 years, longer than that actually, since the change of 2 up, 2 down, only 4 teams who have finished in second spots have been promoted. They've been knocked out in the playoff stages. So the rest of them are teams that should have been promoted by right in line with the rest of them. They've lost out that opportunity. And there have been delays. I think Wrexham was one of those at one stage, and they then had to go again. They should have been up in the league earlier than they actually were by sporting merit. And if you look at, could you imagine, do you remember let's talk about football here. If you remember the fantastic battle between Wrexham and Notts County.
Yes, I do.
What a fantastic
great
advert that was for football. And both teams receiving over 100 points.
Mm.
And at one stage, Notts County were at the risk of having over 100 points and not going up. Is that fair?
Not at all. Not at all. I can completely understand that viewpoint, and it's a question I was planning on asking you later on. To be honest, I'll ask you it now. But when you saw that sporting story of Notts County, you just mentioned there, getting 100 points, surely that should give you the rights to be guaranteed to get promotion. Obviously, they had to go at the playoffs. They did eventually go through, but they should have got that automatically, in my opinion. I'm guessing This was a big story that led to you wanting to implement it.
Yeah, mine as well. They absolutely deserved the right to go up in an automatic place. And what a travesty that would have been had they not. They nearly slipped up, by the way. They had a fantastic semi-final with Boreham Wood, where they were 2 down at half time. And the battle in the final was an immense battle and going through on penalties. So it was a fantastic competition. Just goes to show, though, how good the competition is at the National League. And not only those clubs go up, hold their own. You have a look at many of the FA Cup stories of teams in the National League and the National League system, to be fair, who perform well against higher opposition in the EFL and occasionally the Premier League. It's a fantastic story.
Well, yeah, definitely. And like I said, we'll look at that side once again a bit later on. But I still want to return back to those EFL teams. We just alluded to that massive fight there between Wrexham and Notts County at the top of the league. Do you think you could use those stories in order to pitch to these EFL teams that this could be you, maybe if this doesn't go through?
Well, look, they'll know that anyway. The strong feeling of our 15 clubs who are our ex-EFL clubs all want to aspire to get back into the EFL, and why wouldn't they? The story needs to be run, but the facts of why we're running this campaign, I think, are speaking very loudly for themselves. I haven't heard one single argument as to why it's not right that the National League have a 3-up position. Nobody's been able to say, well, actually, they're not structured correctly. They're not full-time clubs. They are. They're structured well. They've got their finances in the right place, and we're going to have the same finances moving forward. Nobody can tell me why not now. So the question I have is, with it being linked to the discussions between the EFL and the Premier League, why? Why is that so important? And all we can see is that all it's doing is delaying the situation. All right, it's going to take longer time. Why does that have to be sorted before they can consider the 3-up issue? It doesn't. They're not linked in any way, shape or form.
Yeah, because if you look deeper into this issue, it almost seems as though the EFL's using this appeal rather than to get the 3-up, 3-down appeal going faster, almost using it as a little bit of a delay.
I can't comment on that. The situation, as I said, we've got generally a great working relationship with the EFL. Like any organisation, we will have disagreements in our approach on things. We'll disagree on things with the regulator that they agree on. We disagree with things on the Premier League that they agree on, and some of the things we're in unison and we agree on. That's business. That's football, I'm afraid, and they're professional disagreements. So whether the motives for not putting it on the books now is one that the EFL will have to answer, and it would be one that I would be very interested in the answer.
What do you think is the likelihood of this deal going ahead and being executed?
Look, if we didn't think we could do it, we wouldn't have launched it. The one thing I'll say, though, is that the campaign's not going away. So if for any reason they don't do what's right for football and put this forward, we will continue our fight to secure it. I've got to look at what's right for football, not just what's right for, and this is the important message, I'm not looking at what's just right for the National League clubs. Of course, I'm interested in that. Of course, I've got to be, but I'm doing what's right for football, because the whole pyramid, and there are future clubs, both below the National League and above the National League, that if this campaign does not succeed, will be penalised by an unfair system. So those clubs, those couple of clubs that are languishing near the bottom this season, and don't forget, we're not asking for it to come in to affect their position this season. So next season, they might be halfway up the table, or they might be in the National League trying to get out. So the sensible thing to do is to support it. And we're trying to do what's right for football. And that's why, as part of the campaign, we're saying that the league needs to put football first.
Well, you've just mentioned there about the National League teams, National League South, National League North. What shockwaves, if this appeal was to go through, would it have on leagues lower? So you've got the Southern Prem. In my local area, you've got Wessex League underneath that. What ramifications would it have on them?
What it will do at the very top of the pyramid, it will mean that we have a consistent approach right the way through. It will enhance the flow of clubs without doubt. Okay, it will deal with the one block that we have within the pyramid. We are constantly striving to ensure that the pyramid is supported in the right way throughout the game. In the teams around the National League and the National League North and South, it will give an injection into the into the communities of which the clubs serve. All right, it will give them a boost to their aspirations to get promoted. At the moment, those clubs that are in the national division know that they've only got one guaranteed automatic place and one to a possible playoff. Right? So it will boost those aspirations both in the clubs and outside of the clubs. And think about the benefits of that as well. So we're actually commissioning a fiscal study to measure the impact, an independent fiscal study to measure the impact that this decision will have and the third place will have on the communities and the clubs. And we'll publish that during the campaign. All right. So anecdotally, we know the impact it had when we received a second promotion spot. And that was in line and probably the right thing to do at that stage. But the game has moved on massively in the last 20 years, thankfully.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned about having that campaign and you're going to keep going for it, trying to keep getting this appeal over the line. When can we expect to hear what happens next involving all of this?
Yeah, the discussion will be held, I'm sure, in the various places within the EFL. Our aim is to get it onto the annual general meeting to be voted on in June. So we'll know by the time the notice to the annual general meeting comes out, calling the meeting, whether it's on the agenda or not. Hopefully we'll know before then, because we'll get the position from the EFL, and hopefully, as I said before, we had very good conversations with the EFL who supported it in principle. So we're just asking them to disengage from the discussions that they're having with the Premier League and do it now rather than wait.
Definitely, I don't see why not, and I would love for this appeal to go forward. I think it's great what you're doing, Mark, along with the National League. To be honest, I could be here speaking for another few hours about it. I think it's all so fascinating. I mean, obviously, there's loads of things that are going on with the National League, so we might have to get you on for a future episode. I'm sure the viewers would love all of that.
I'll happily come back.
Oh, brilliant, mate. We'll definitely get you on. Hopefully next time we speak to you, might all be sorted or we'll be talking about a different subject. We'll definitely get you on in the future, mate. But before we let you go, I do want to ask you some questions, not related to the off-field things, more related to what's happening on-field in the National League. So I want you to make a few predictions, starting off with relegation. The relegation battle is heating up in the National League this season. Who are your four teams to go down?
You'll be unsurprised to know that I'm not going to name any club for the pure and simple reason that I have to keep myself on side with 72 clubs.
Yeah,
all I will tell you is whatever club goes up, in whether that's in the National League North, National League South, or the National Division, will be a quality club, and they'd have won it in a fair race. That's the point that I would make. And for clubs, look, there's always clubs that get relegated. I think I could name a couple that I think have got tougher battles than others, but I shan't. They'll continue to fight until mathematically they can't survive. All I'll say to any of those, I've got the utmost respect for all of our 72 clubs. So any club that leaves us, I'd be waiting for them with open arms for when they come back up and win promotion again, because the experience that they've had within the National League will be a good experience. It is a really, really good league. And as I say, I've only been here since 2021. And I've been really pleased with the way that we work together and the way that the league's progressed. By the way, you look at the things that have progressed over the previous 4 or 5 years, the accessibility of the games on TV and now DAZN, the reach of the league is not just confined to these shores. It's international, worldwide.
Well, definitely. And like we said, the National League, I think it's safe to say it's going global. I've seen people in New Zealand talk about it who I was actually having a conversation with not so long ago. But we could talk about that in a future episode, actually, or the TV deals. I'm doing a bit about it for my coursework at the moment, so it would link perfectly. But as for this episode, we're going to wrap this up. Thanks for your time, Mark, and we'll see you in the next one. But make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast, and we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.